about ready to start the grand campaign for War and Peace, the new, well, 6th edition, whatever. I started charting out the victory conditions. And one thing becomes obvious. There's no precedence of these conditions. I think it's possible for multiple conditions to hold, i.e. multiple people win a victory. For example, if you get through 2 through 5, and I think that they have precedence, they kind of have to, because, for example, if Napoleon returns from exile and holds Paris, it's a draw. But the player controlling Austria and Prussia, we were splitting these, wins a marginal victory if the following condition is met. Either Spain or Russia was conquered by France at least once, Austria was conquered 2 or fewer times, Prussia was conquered 1 or fewer times, and either Austria or Prussia conquers France. Okay, so they have to hold Paris, I guess. Again, I don't know what conquering France means, but I think it's taking Paris, because that will make France fall. So the nation, Austria or Prussia, because I'm splitting it, has to win. And you have to meet these. But we can look here. England and Spain win a marginal in the same. If Spain was never conquered by France, Austria was conquered 2 or more times. No, Spain or England has to conquer France. Yeah, maybe these are all exclusive. I'm not sure. I was starting to try to puzzle it out. Honestly, I can't. It's going to be too complicated a decision tree. It's going to start with things like, first of all, there's the automatic victories that France can win, which are conquering England and taking Moscow, basically, along with a whole bunch of other stuff. Then there's sort of a decision tree to go through, which is like, was France conquered? Was this? And it could be parsed out of here, and maybe I'll make another shot at it. Right now, I just don't feel like it. And some of these factors may become cleared by a certain point. For example, if France is never conquered, as long as they invade Spain and Russia in time, they can win a marginal victory. It's the only reason to go into Spain, really. But that happens in 1809. All right. We don't roll for weather. We don't roll for attrition. We do have to deal with the neutral player segment, which is Prussia. Prussia has restrictions on them, which I don't remember. In the original game, they could throw themselves into the war right away. There are various reasons not to in this. So we again look for Austria, Prussia, Russia. It may not become pro-French until it has been conquered by France. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. It cannot become pro-French by the alliance die rolls until it's been conquered by France. I feel like to get the historical results, you kind of have to force Prussia into the I'm not going to declare war right away, and I'm going to be forced to declare war on France after Austria is beaten. I don't like taking this much agency away, but it's the only way that all this makes sense. And honestly, you get very ahistorical games if you play with sort of a free diplomacy, which isn't surprising. But, you know, the decision of Prussia not to support Austria and Russia is a really, really bad one and a really good thing for France. Okay. So, I could move my forces around. I don't see a hell of a lot of purpose to that. And that gets me to the pro-French. And here we have to think about a potential for naval breakout. I also ought to get things on the board like the Lloyds of London and whatnot. I have counters that I didn't understand, like Spain's city points. Is that their production? Maybe. England's naval points. Yeah, these are production chart stuff. Backs of these, well, on the back of this one, what do we have? We have a turkey and a turkey unformed. I don't know what that's for. I mean, the only scenario Turkey's even in is well, it's vaguely in here, but the only scenario it's in is the Egyptian campaign. I guess you could use this to indicate that they're not allied or something. I don't know. Why do they have a flag? This is similar. You have like Spain unformed on the back of their control marker. What does that mean? It may mean that they control a territory. It doesn't make sense for Turkey, but they control a territory yet have not formed a minor state out of it. That would be one way to use it. I don't know. It's like Austrian city points. The fuck is this for? Like I was saying, these are for production. They don't really make sense for Austria to have them. Basically, I have a stack of city point markers for every country, and I can't justify any use for them. You don't track city points by country. You track, in the scenarios you track them over here by putting a number on there. Maybe this is an alternative. I don't know. The other thing is very similar looking counters are for the production, which I'll put over on the production track to be used. These include things like the stored naval points the French can put and stuff. There's so much. As I'm trying to fill these out, these counters are really problematic. I'll put the weather in place. I have French production points. I don't think the French are allowed to store production points, but I have a marker for it. The Lloyds, I have 2 Lloyds rate counters. There's no reason for there to be 2. It starts at 5%. I don't think it is allowed to go below 5%. And then there's like, oh, I see. Yeah, we do need 2. We have a tens digit here and a ones digit here. So I guess it goes up by 1% each time. I didn't realize it was that slow. Okay. Another thing that looks really weird, I think I'm just trying to delay having to do the French naval movement. We have the turn sequence, which I used. That's basically for the basic game. We have a campaign turn sequence, and then an expanded sequence of play here as well. Meanwhile, the backs of all these books are unused. I'm looking to see. Not necessary, right? There's space for additional player aids on the backs of these things that would be helpful, even if they're duplicates of some of the others, because they only give you one of these. Yeah, it's like, you know, the final production decisions were really kind of odd. Let's just put it that way. All right, let's try doing the boats. Here's the initial situation. There's a fair-sized fleet gathered here. 2, 3, 4, 5 ships off of Cadiz. There's a couple of French ships here. One's a transport. We don't want to risk our transport. There are very few ships in the Med. Now, initially, there's supposed to be a single squadron in the Med under Nelson. But that's not enough to deal with these excess fleets that the Spanish and French have. I feel like the French they have increased in the historical fleet thing. The amount of fleets, I think they get a 1-point advantage. The Franco-Spanish alliance in terms of ships that they get, and that changes the nature of things. Plus, things are, like a ship that was here was blockaded, and now it's not. So that actually looses another ship. What I want to do is figure out a way to beat up on those English ships that are loose, that are in the Med, blockading. Well, I can't attack Gibraltar. That's actually in the port. It's just we don't have a way of... Like, the way the game handles it is the boxes are not blockade boxes. They're port boxes. I feel like that's wrong, that they should use them, that they should use the port to keep the ships in and the blockade box for the blockade. I don't know how much it's going to help understanding stuff. So it seems like breaking this ship out would be a worthwhile task. And I should have plenty of ships to do it. I'm going to be able to incorporate these ships into the big fleet at Cadiz. The fleet at Cadiz is the only one that I have that can do any kind of combat, because it's a multinational fleet. Otherwise, I don't remember how many movement points ships have. This is a painful thing, is finding, I see MPs here and I want to look, finding out how many movement points I have for a ship. There we go, it's 4. It's not in a bad place. So if I want to move out to here, that would cause possible interceptions. And it's from a bunch of different stacks. It cost me 1 movement point for that, to move there, another movement point here, and then 2 more to land there, so I can get there. But again, as soon as I move out, it hits me on the interceptions, which we have to look up. Now, naval combat happens intercepting units, but I don't know if I can intercept with multiple stacks at the same time. Now it says any ships that he wishes to intercept. At sea, these are not at sea, so they will not get a bonus. What's the die roll? This is the kind of stuff that should be somewhere on these charts. Like there's a naval results table. Wait, there's an interception, right? There's the pursuit table. That's what you use for interception. I remember that. I didn't see it in there. So I need a 5 or a 6. And I can intercept with all of the squadrons. But I have to, I think, declare them all ahead of time. Yeah. I think I have to announce them all ahead of time. So this fleet moves out. Now, I know how big it is because I know the setup. So it's 5 ships. I have 1 ship there. I have 2 ships here. I have 2 ships here. I have 3 ships here. I have 2 here. If I try to intercept with everything, I let the French fleet out. But I think that's what I want to do. Oh, I have a ship here too that can intercept. I think that's what I want to do. I want to try to intercept with all of them because I don't want to get stuck fighting a battle that's not good. And if I'm sitting out in the Atlantic with my fleets, then I can intercept whatever the French send out piecemeal as it's coming out. So that might inhibit them. Some of our ships, we have 3, I hope that was an S. We have 3 warships that made it out, the Portuguese and the 2 that were in the Atlantic, and we're facing 5. The intercepting player may initiate combat. Kind of feel like if I intercept it, I have to, but I guess I get to see what comes out. 3 to 5 is going to be 1 to 1. That's not too bad. I have a morale advantage. Of -1 because I'm the smaller force. Let's see what we get. We only roll 1 die for this. So we get a 3. 1 to 1. It's an R and a D. The larger force has to retreat and reference the damage table as well. The smaller force takes a damage, reference the damage table for result. The smaller force was 3 ships, a damage and a retreat. Each damages 1 ship. In that fleet. Take a Spanish. And then the Spaniards flee back to Cadiz. The English are not allowed to blockade Cadiz because you need more ships than the enemy to do so. So we'll just stay out there. And that means this was completed. That doesn't really help. I could attempt to run blockades. Let me see if there are any I really want to do, because this is another means. You run a blockade, you're able to slip in and get a combat. Unlike Nations in Arms, I got a significant disadvantage with that -1. The 1 to 1 at -1 is liable to cause me issues. Maybe not that much, because R's and D's take about the same effect. And I could sail a ship out to attack, and then sail another ship out to attack the same ship. So I've got ways of fiddling around and trying to get through. The Atlantic is dangerous because this is still patrolling out there, although it's down to 2 ships and a damaged. What does damage do? I know if they take another damage, they're fucked. I think they're not able to attack for combat. Naval damage. The morale level is dropped by 1. Yeah, I think they still have damage. They still have combat capability. Full strength combat. They're also unaffected in movement. Interesting. Let me pick through stuff and see if I want to attempt any blockade runnings. It's not like I'm free in the North Sea if I slip out either. because other fleets can pursue, and Nelson is among them. He's over here. So that's a risk I have to keep in mind. Try to escape from Bray. And here we have the blockade table that we roll on. We get a 5. I think that lets us slip out. Nope, we get a fail. Blockading force must attack or retreat. I don't know. This is 3 ships against 3 ships. Chances are it doesn't go well for me. I could pull them off of here. There's a 2-ship versus 2-ship there, but then we'd be outnumbered. These guys have an advantage hitting me. I actually don't know if the +1 is this thing. The +1 box. I think that is what is there. I didn't want to move anybody there. Ooh. I don't know. What's the cost to repair? Where's repair? Place a repair marker. There aren't any that I know of. Any units under repair can be repaired at the cost specified above. Above, thank you. 1 production per squadron. I do have a naval point for the French. Geez, I don't know. Let's chance it. So Spain's not a player. France can use their fleets. Let's chance it. So the English are going 1-to-1, again at -1 for their higher morale. Oh. They're equal size. I said -1. So 5. So that's going to be a damage for the French and a retreat for the English. The French, the English is Fleet B here. That's fine. We're at 3 ships, so again we look for the naval damage. 3 ships, damage and retreat are both 1. We take the damage for our retreat, and we have to flee somewhere. I guess we'll go to Plymouth to give us most capability. The French fleet is this one, so they can take a damage. I can dispatch the damaged ship and maybe not break out. I think I'm able to pursue these fuckers after a battle. Yeah, I can blockade the English in Plymouth. That makes it easy for them to pick. Like, they can pick on me if I'm blockading very easily because they have a numerical advantage here. Do I want to drop a fleet back? And let me look for a repair marker. I remember the ships that have done something. like been retreated because I can't use them again on either side. What I'm going to do is I'm going to drop this off. Now I have two ships. I'm on the border here, so I move into here. These ships were retreated. They can't. No, these ships were retreated. These are transports. They're useless. I have Nelson with a ship, and I have this ship here. If I let the French sail to here, then I got a problem. So I'm going to try to intercept. I think Nelson gives me a +1 for interception. Yep. And the blockading fleet is going to attempt to intercept. So first Nelson, and I can't do these all as one die roll because they're from different locations. So Nelson gets there, the other fleet does not. So now it's a 2-to-1 with Nelson attacking. We've used up one movement point to get there, I think. That's a one movement point space. MT, merchants. Okay. We've used up one point to get there. That means what? No, nothing. It's 1 to 2. I have -1. Make it -2. Do I want to do that? We have to get a 3 or less. I'm going to throw Nelson in to make it -3 using his special ability. Because he didn't get many troops there. That's perfect. I got a 1, which means I force a retreat on them. One ship, I don't know if one ship takes damage. Yeah, one ship still takes damage. So this is damaged, and one of the French ships is damaged. And now the French get to retreat. I'm going to sail them back up to here. Nelson doesn't have enough strength to be able to blockade. He has to make a leader loss check, though, which he's perfectly happy doing. Now I have to hunt to see if there's another fleet that I want to try to break out. I've done enough damage to myself. You know, I need to repair these now, presumably, which is the problem. And of course, I need my army, so I don't really want to pay for my fleets. Problem is, I'm not going to be able to do any commerce raiding unless I slip fleets out. But right now, I'm trying to win the naval war rather than deal with the commerce raiding. I can pretty much just ignore the commerce raiding as an option, right? It's just something that I'm allowed to do if I so desire. But the risk, you know, I send a ship out, I'm at risk when I do that. And it's tough for me to take that risk when I could still possibly win the naval war. And once I can't win it, they can probably blockade all my ships in a pretty nasty way. So that is going to put us to the attrition phase. There isn't one. To the alliance phase. There isn't one. To the production phase. I'm going to back away at this point because doing an intricate naval situation like at the beginning of this scenario took something out of me. Right, well, and I'm not really doing much in terms of playing here, but Somebody managed to give me, I don't know if they typed it out or copy and paste it from the PDF. Apparently there is a living rules over on the OSS. Another person pointed that out to me. But somebody put the Irish rules. They're not as simple as I would hope. They involve like forces tracking down a track and making rolls to see, and then it's basically kind of like, I guess, the English War. I don't know, because it has a rules reference as to you do it the same way as this. And as with anything that's electronic, it's hard for me to cope with because my printer is not working, although maybe it will. I bought another ink cartridge for it, but I don't want to mess with it. Basically, it's a rule that I will deal with if and when I'm in a situation where I want to fuck around with Ireland for some reason. But right now, I don't see much point to that. So, whatever. I was hoping OSS would get back to me at some point about, a rules replacement, but no word from them. So, we're hitting the production phase, and we have two players, or two nationalities that the pro-French player has to roll for. Oh, you know what I forgot? I forgot the Prussians. Prussians get a production phase too, back here, that I didn't do anything with. But so they're only getting 1 point per. I don't know how many production cities they have. Obviously Berlin. But what else is listed? Königsberg, which has Landwehr. So I can build an infantry over for them. And that has to go in Berlin, I believe. Who is leader A. So I reduce this. Come over here. The smaller map was easier to deal with. I could have it on this table all on its own. Leader A goes up to a 2. Great. So that is handled. But for the French and Spanish, let me just roll. We don't get any bonuses. Spain is going to get 2 points. France is going to get 4 plus a naval point. So for the Spanish, let's look at the fucking naval repair rules. It's weird. Repair costs 1 production point per squadron. Naval production points can be used. 2 or more units can be repaired. This activity does not. At the end of the player's production, put a repair above any. At the start of their next, they can pay them. I don't have repair markers. Game doesn't come with them. So Spain is unable to use their points. And this fleet, or this squadron, is now under repair. I don't know where to put it. I'm going to leave it in the fleet. But yeah, I have no Spanish units, so that's not going to be anything I can do with that. With the French, I have a couple of units that are damaged. They're both over here in Fleet A, which I think is back in Brest. So I'll put a repair marker over them. Just in case. I have a point. I don't think I have any boats to begin with in my force pool. Nope. So I can't build anything. If Holland had boats, I could build something, but they don't either. Okay. And now for my French, I have a naval point. Naval points I know I can store for France. And I don't think that's modified by the die roll. I'd have to look that up again to see if it is. Yeah, a lot of walking around because this overlarge map. it feels like in every way, component-wise, this game, while prettier, has just like gotten worse. Like, do I really need this stuff? I mean, okay, but all right. So now, and the English are allowed somehow to repair ships out at sea, which is kind of funky, but maybe only on blockade duty. I guess they can fight or whatever. So with my 4 points, I'm allowed to build in any major in any major city. Wow, Toulon, yeah, it's one of the special naval things. I want to look where I have extra leaders. Davout has Soule, and Soule has nothing with him. Napoleon has Laon and Ney. I got stuff with Laon, but I can use Ney as a ferry. Oh, he'd like that. So it looks to me like Strasbourg. Oh, Davout's right there near Strasbourg. Since I'm focused on the Austrians, it looks like Strasbourg is where I want to put my troops. Davout is sitting on too many troops. Some of these have to go under Soule. Do it like that. I think I'd like more cav. I don't feel like I have enough cav, although Napoleon has a decent amount with him. Quite a decent amount, actually. So I think I'll build 2 cav and 2 infantry. No, sorry, 1 cav and 2 infantry, because I didn't get the doubling of city. I vaguely remember a rule of something like you can only build 2 strength points per city, max, but I can't find that. I'm looking over, like, I remember reading it, but again, the mass of text has always been an issue here. I've been looking and looking, and I just can't seem to find it. Now, on the original map, Paris is marked as a production city, and it is again here. Brussels is marked as one, but that's specifically exempted from being one. So those 3 cities, I believe France gets 4 production cities. Let me make sure by checking over here. I kind of left out the walking back and forth. Paris and any 3 major cities, yeah. That's what I recalled. That cav could be built somewhere else and still make its way towards the front. But I don't, nowhere too close. It has to be a major city, unfortunately. So, I don't know. I don't remember where I saw that. It wouldn't be in this book because this book has nothing to do with it, I think. But maybe somewhere, like I remember reading it, that's the problem. But it may have had to do with the Spanish production in particular or something like that. Special French production. They can accumulate their... I'm just going to go with it as it is, which may be giving France a little bit of an advantage. Now, that's going to get us to the ground movement phase. I don't really want to zoom in on the details of that. I would suggest the Marengo campaign if you want to see how the ground movement and combat works. I think that's the most interesting of the things that I've put up so far. in terms of that. Big thing I want to consider is whether I want to invade Portugal. And this brings me Portugal is not got special rules for invasion. What they have is special production rules, which are over here. If they are invaded, that's not really well defined. It could be considered, because invasion actually doesn't much matter, except for certain things. Invasion of a minor, that doesn't really help. I'm looking to see if there's like some amount of forces that you need to count as an invasion for this. I don't think so. Portugal would get a production. It's 2 per major, 1 per minor, of 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which is normal. Like, that's allowed to build 1 infantry. That's basically what they have. So one of the questions I always have with this game is, do I want to set myself up for an invasion of Portugal? And I think the answer is yes with the Spaniards. There's nothing that stops them. And if they're playing, under the old system, if they're playing as their own power, they absolutely want to take Portugal. After they take Portugal, then they want to consider whether they want to be anti-French. Under the new game, I don't see any reason why I wouldn't use them for that. Do I have any special restrictions? And I'm sorry, this is kind of how the game is played. Spain is pro-French. I'm basically looking to see this happens in July 1807, or once Austria and Prussia have been conquered. So I actually don't even have this here yet. It's unformed Spain. This is the wrong marker. This is the one I want. Okay. Yeah, I don't see anything specific which tells me that I can't move the Spanish units. And okay, so invade Portugal we will. Quick snapshot of that. I'm moving forces westward, and Blake went into the mountains. He has to leave a supply unit behind because it's not quite good enough. But Oporto is open, so yeah. On to the French. Oh boy. It's because there's troops all over the place. The game is actually playing the ground game on this is actually taxing in a way that, like, what is it? Nations in Arms really wasn't. You can try to surround people in Nations in Arms, but it's just such a hard thing to do. Here, though, there are a lot of little tricky things, and then there's die rolls for the forced marches and all that. We didn't have to worry about attrition this turn. And you've got to balance out, compare where all your leaders are and everything. I'm finding it kind of, even for the smaller scenarios, it was kind of rough to figure out where everything's going. It's the kind of amount of thought that, like, it's not at the level of like an OCS game, but maybe things like Korean War or something that doesn't really mesh with what I remember of the game. I remember it being easier to play. I was younger back then. Recall correctly, supply sources can only be major cities, which means me leaving Bray here, I can't force march to there without putting myself at some risk. But am I? Yeah, I would be at risk because I'd be out of supply. And this was a problem in Nations in Arms too. Getting out of Brittany is tough. And getting in there is tough too. And that sort of west coast of France, it was hard to maintain the supply lines. It's kind of interesting to see that both games have that same issue, which I kind of doubt makes sense. Zoom in on Italy for now. Massena has moved up next to Charles. He's going to try to attack him. I don't know how much troops Charles has. I hope it's not huge. Charles has, oh fuck, he has Hiller with him. We've got to do the lookup there. He has 10, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Massena's outnumbered, but but he does have better morale. His leadership is equivalent. I haven't decided if I'm going to fight yet, but it's a thought. I moved down to the Kingdom of Naples. I'm going to rotate the counters for Naples so that next... Oh! Yeah, I already have them rotated. Just trying to make sure that there's nothing that I should have generated yet. Yeah. So next turn, I can produce troops in Naples. Again, the rules I have say you have to own Florence. Well, you start set up in Florence by both rule sets, so I don't know. And now we come to the ugly part, which is figuring out what I'm going to do up here along the German border. Let's dispose of everybody. Rotate them back. Ney came running down here. He's going to try to reinforce Massena. You know, I'm going to actually just move to here and defend the river line with Massena instead of where I moved. And the one interesting fight that we have is here against Ferdinand and Mack. Napoleon's here, Davout's here. If I use Davout as the primary force, I can get a +3 to try to bring Napoleon in using the special maneuver. And he succeeds. So Napoleon flings back to here. Now what's weird is now I'm no longer blocking this. I could leave some forces behind to make it uglier. But I don't really want to do that. Yeah. What does Lannes have under him? Lannes has 5 infantry. Might be worth leaving Lannes behind, because I think I've got enough troops to handle this. So now Napoleon and Davout are here. That allows me, and Davout has Soult with him. That gives me a really big force to fight against Ferdinand here. That river line didn't really help him. Time to talk chits. So, Ferdinand wants to withdraw. That means he's going to be the smaller force. I don't know what this even means. Okay, he'll be the smaller force. So he would take a withdrawal. But he could try a trick. So the best thing against withdrawal is a charge. And that means I'd want to do, say, a square. So I'm going to give myself a 1 in 6 chance of picking a square. I don't get that. I'm going to take the withdrawal that I want to take, and I'll just put that here to remind me. For the French, I use a similar kind of thinking, which is, look, obviously a charge is the best thing I can do, but anything kind of works. So I am going to split it among these three that don't allow the withdrawal to get a no combat. And that's a 4. I am indeed going to charge. So we put these up here. Now these would be selected and put forward like this. And now what we have is the best option for us. Let me figure out the strength points here. Ferdinand has Mac with him. He has 12 strength points with 1 cav. Napoleon has Soult and Davout with him. I don't remember now what he had. Fuck. Slick counters. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. These are guard infantry. 10, 20, 24, 25, 26. Let's get rid of some clutter. Okay, 26. Wait, that's not right, is it? Okay, 26 strength points versus 14? 12. 26 to 12 is a 2 to 1, but nothing special. There's a +2 to the die roll for this, +1 for the little maneuver here. And by the way, I probably didn't even want to do a charge because I probably wanted to take a lower risk option because I'm going to be so high. So I have +2 from this. I have +2 from leadership, +1 for morale. My morale is 2, the Austrians is 1. And +1 for the little maneuver that I did jumping over here. So now, and this is going to be a little different from what we've seen before because I'm going to use what I think this is meant to do. I'm at +6, but it's only really +4. So we roll the dice because there's a limit. 12, 2 to 1, a 12 means I generate a D3 against the Austrians. 5, minus 4 is a 1. That goes all the way down there. No, 5 plus 4 is a 9. That goes up here. So they're generating a 1. And now we take a look. 12 strength points, a 1 means the French take 2 losses. They didn't want to throw cav in. I have to take the majority on my regular units. So I'm going to take a Rhine unit for 1 of the losses. And is Soult the guy I left behind? No, Lan is the guy I left behind. So I'll take a hit on Soult. We'll rebalance afterwards. This goes over here. And this is, again, the smaller thing. I would, with a smaller board and whatnot, I would have that thing which would be smaller as well right here. The old game's components were just easier to work with, just simply because of size. So here a French unit goes here, but oops, it turns into a 2 instead, and I put this back over here. And You know, I mean, I've got everything so spread out because the map takes up so much room. And this is going to go in the Rhine. Now, the Rhine has not been created yet. I do have a Rhine unit, but I haven't taken Frankfurt. So it's unformed, which means I can't rebuild that. But I've got people heading to Frankfurt. Okay. What was theirs? Theirs was a D3 on the 12. 12 at D3. They take 5 losses plus another one because they're withdrawing from the Cav hit. To remember, whenever you take losses, you have to go into the force pool. Otherwise, your force pools will get too small, and you know you'll be in a problem. I did the leader loss checks. You'll see those in other scenarios. Ferdinand falls back here. Napoleon can advance. He probably doesn't want to advance all his troops because he wants to balance out for the attrition for next turn. To that, I leave Davout back here. He's still supporting me and can come into a battle on the second round. Ferdinand's not going to attack, though. And now that gets us through combat, leader casualties, siege check. We're going to be going to the anti-French player segment as a whole. I'm again going to break because the movement and to some extent the combat of the way I've chosen to do it, you know, with the chits, with the rolling for both sides, all that, has become even heftier than it was in the earlier scenarios that I've played. But I feel like it does add a richness. In particular, we have a D3 on this Austrian unit, and it's going to have a hard time recovering from that, I think. This is a question that I have for this. This is using the optional rule for the Ds, the demoralization rules, that I like the idea of, because I don't think armies recovered as quickly as they do. During combat, it's possible. Commonly, however, all demoralization markers remain in place. Yeah, so at the start of ground unit, he can attempt to rally. And that D3 is more important now because he is so routed. He only had a 1 morale to begin with. He's kind of at a -2 now, and it's going to take very long time to recover that. So he's going to fall back. But maybe the fact that I took a withdrawal means that I didn't take as big a loss as Mack historically did at Ulm. I think it was fought at Ulm. And because I fell back, it's making it easier. I'm gonna, try to fall back on Kutuzov and try to rely on the Russian troops. The danger, of course, with this is the morale of the Russian troops is just better. It's equivalent to the French morale, for what that's worth. All right, we need to mark that we're going to be on the anti-French player segment. All right, let's start with the British navies. We also have Russian navies I can move. It's not, they can do something. They can't cooperate with the Brits. That's okay. I seem to remember there was some kind of rule that prevented that. I have a damaged ship here that I pulled out of the fleet, but maybe I don't want to do that because I can repair at sea or in blockade. However, this French damaged fleet is 3 strength points. This should be on top of it. That's my repair marker. Somehow it got bumped. I have 3 fleets, including a damaged one, that I could shift to blockade that. That would blockade everything along along the channel, except for the transport, which I'm not that worried about. Yeah, they could ship some French troops, possibly even to Ireland, which, you know, might be interesting, but transports on their own, they're probably going to get intercepted and sunk, so doesn't seem like a great idea. Nelson's got a damaged ship up here. I've got a fleet down here with 1 damaged ship. That might make sense to block. See, Cadiz has 4 ships. 5 ships in it. That's the problem. Here, I only have 1, 2, 3. I got to be careful because it's possible that a 2-point ship is damaged. Let me find an example. That just looks like a damaged ship. The counters are not as useful as they might be. I would like to have Cadiz under control. What I think I'm going to do is I think I'm going to reform this fleet. It's this one, I think. And sail it to blockade here. Then I think I have enough. There's nothing that can intercept anymore. So I'm going to sail these guys to London because they're not in a great place where they are. My troops are in London. I don't really want to shift troops anywhere. There are no French fleets out that can cause issues to my shipping, so that's cool. Russia does not have a fleet marker. I only have 1 Russian ship. That is definitely an issue. That's not enough to cover the North Sea on its own. Sure, it might deal with a breakout here, but it's not able to deal with the Bray breakout, so I don't want to do that. I think, what about my Cadiz fleet there? That's fleet A. If I gather movement point 1, the Cadiz fleet can try to intercept me. That's the problem. So instead, because I don't want to be caught with a damaged ship, I can go 1, absorb that, 2 to here, and this is fleet A. Now, do I want to intercept it? I don't know how many ships it has, but I kind of do. It has 4. I have 4. If I can evade the blockade, that gives me something. I'm going to allow him to blockade me. I don't know if that's wise, but and so now only this ship is loose. I have another ship that I could send out, 1, An interception means we fight. I don't want to do that. Well, it means, I don't know, it says we may fight, but I'm just like, I don't think that makes sense. And we're going to, oh, wait a minute. What are the Gibraltar rules? Because I don't think I need a ship in Gibraltar to defend it. I think it can't be blockaded. Here's the problem with the way the rules are organized. I have no idea where to look for this. Like, the place I would think I would look is the main map segment. Beyond that, it's like, is it battle? Is it siege? What is it? Because I don't want to send a ship out there if it can't. And this one, 1, 2, 3, 4. This one would have gone 1, 2, 3, 4. Actually, it's hitting a port, so it's only 1. I don't want to, sorry, you actually went up here. I don't want to send a ship out because, wait, if Gibraltar can be taken, because the Spanish will take it, and that's horrible. It's not a production city, but it's an important place. But yeah, the way the rules are structured, it might be somewhere in the combat or somewhere in the siege rules, and there are these large sections of just text. I'm not going to be able to find it. There's not enough distinguishment. The color pictures don't help for me. I need more white space. The original rules were maybe even worse in terms of finding something like this with their 3 columns of pure text. I don't know why, but there's just like no structure or anything, so it doesn't stick in my head in the same way other rule books do. Although I'm having more and more trouble with that as I get older. Anyway, it's going to take me a while to find Gibraltar. One thing I could do is pull the PDF up if it exists and look for Gibraltar. Quick example where I think it's most likely to be is here in Fortress and Siege. So I start scanning, looking for something that looks like Gibraltar. But it's just zoom, zoom, zoom. And it might be stuck in a note in italics that I like to avoid seeing. We got these C8, C9. And now we're down to just siege. Like, it probably shouldn't be under assault or siege. I'm not seeing any mention of Gibraltar in here. And I hate this because I know there's a rule about Gibraltar. I have no idea how to find it. I don't want to have to run downstairs, get on my computer every time I want to look up a rule, right? It's one reason I bought a tablet. I thought it would be useful for being able to quickly scan things. I saw a couple of reasons I thought I could use it to read books on. It just wasn't, and now it doesn't even work, so I can't even bring it up here. Like, it barely lasted. I don't know. I found the rule. The OSS rules, they're not, like GMT has the rules linked to the game page, and then it goes to a place that maybe you can get to a different way as well. They used to just be on the game page, which has made sense to me, but now it goes through extra steps. In OSS, the only way to get them is the support tab. There's no indication on the actual game page. And I mean, it's a similar thing, except it wasn't where I first looked. And then I had to look at the PM, oh, well, not PM, but the video comment that somebody sent. It's not in the rulebook. Gibraltar is mentioned twice in the main rulebook. Neither one is that. It's in the Grand Campaign only, which is not what I thought. But I did look at the, not the Irish rules, because I've looked at those, but specifically the Polish rules, which have a very interesting little factor about them. So if I'm going to, basically, if you create Greater Poland, you get a bunch more troops. You incorporate all of this territory, and Grodno, the fuck is Grodno? That's Krakow. Grodno's here. Becomes a production city. Now that looks like it's outside the borders of Poland, as does Brest-Litovsk. Those get incorporated into it, which basically could happen. Like, I still feel like you can create the Grand Duchy of Warsaw, or should be able to, the way you used to, by just taking Warsaw. But beyond that, and I'm going to tinker with these rules and fuck with them, because I don't really accept how they're written. I think, like, to me it feels like declaring Polish independence and then and linking that to the Treaty of Tilsit makes some sense. If you're incorporating these into Poland, I don't know why the boundary of the Kingdom of Poland includes Austrian territory, but not the Russian territory that's included, whatever. But giving you an extra production city and some 8 extra infantry in the force pool, that makes Poland a really potent factor. And now I'm like feeling like I do want to throw Poland into the fully into the war. I think that's actually a strong option. That I would not allow until Tilsit is formed. Although you might make an argument, if I capture these, that I could create Greater Poland before I force Tilsit, whatever. I'm not going to go there. They also suggest using the Swedish units. While they insist on using the Swedish units that are Russian, no matter who controls Sweden. Denmark may have something similar to that. That actually, I think, I passed through. But I do need the Navy here in order to protect Gibraltar. Again, it's in the naval rules, which is not where I would have thought to see it. What I would have thought to see is that in the basic rules, because in the Spanish scenario, it would be possible to take Gibraltar. Maybe it's not worth anything. I don't know. Maybe it's out of play, specifically in that scenario. I have no idea. But I think I've done the naval aspect. I am heavily worn out. There's no attrition, no alliance. We have production. Production is going to be 4 players. Nobody gets any bonuses. By the way, Russian patriotism is an optional role. If the Russians are on this board, map 4, which is... This divide actually may match the original map better because the map was tilted, whereas now it's more straightforward, giving you Naples. But anyway, the Russian patriotism gives them a morale of 3 on the board 4. I think they should only have that in defense. It makes things kind of complicated in terms of like maintaining demoralization levels or not, but not really, because you know, like these guys have a D3 on them. All right, so what do we got? Only Russia gets a double. Prussia's not in there. Only Russia gets the double money. England and Austria get single cash, and I will do the builds. In the case of the English, all their fleets are going to get little repair markers on them. Probably they're engaged in blockades, for whatever that matters. I can't spend points on them yet, though. No way. The argument about the King's German Legion is that that's Hanoverian, or maybe the equivalent to the King's German Legion forces that are not high quality. There's no special rules about them. I can build them in England. There were special rules about where I could build the King's German Legion. I don't remember what those were, but I need something in Germany. I don't remember what locations it were. It might have been Hesse and Brunswick or something like that. So I feel like I have to go look that up now too. There's just so much chromy shit buried in rules that are hard to find stuff. And this is true about the original game as well, where I can't remember what the fuck I'm doing over the board. That's going to be the production rules, which I don't have here. I have downstairs now online, but I do have here, and they should be the same. Unlike the Poland rules, which are completely different, and I knew they would be. I knew there were going to be changes. Now, unfortunately, the place that I would look for this is the special English production rules. They're not there. It's somewhere buried in here, I think, or maybe not. I don't know. It's buried up here in the major state production. Just like the Napoleon bonus is mentioned here, although that kind of makes sense. And probably not in the special French production rules that are in the new version, but who cares? But yeah, here, Brunswick or Hanover has to be controlled by the anti-French for me to use the King's German Legion. I'm going to say the same thing applies to the Landwehr then, because it just doesn't make sense to have Landwehr raised out of English troops. The production points from these cities can be used to purchase. Does that mean I purchase them in the city? I think so. But again, it's not absolutely clear. And I noticed these stupid letters on everything. Well, because that makes it harder to see anything, I had a partisan in with my English troops. I'm pretty sure that's not allowed. I don't know. You know, it may be too many piles of things. My partisans should be over here. I'm pretty sure they don't have a partisan at the start of the game. I'm not even going to look it up because partisans only happen when you're invaded. I didn't even know they had partisans. What the fuck? I don't remember partisan rules for the English. But yeah. And Austria has like 2 cities, so they only get 2 production. The English only got 2 production as well. It's really hard to keep track of everything. In terms, this game used to be familiar to me, but I think I didn't used to read the rules every time, and so I just kind of played a shorthand version and probably left a bunch of shit out. But it was also easier to manage with the old version. The Russians with their 6 points, I am limiting them to 2 units per stack. I'm going to pull, somebody got an extra strength point there, Davout, I think. Where is he? Who's he with? He's with Napoleon. I'm going to pull a cav out of Napoleon's army. I remember this rule, and I don't know where it came from. So this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we'll move it to there instead. I'm pretty damn sure there was a limitation of no more than 2 units per hex. And with the Russians getting double production, basically since I'm building all infantry, because I have leaders everywhere. Like, that's kind of my distinguishing feature is, do I have leaders? If I do, I build infantry. If I don't, I build cav, because it's hard to funnel the infantry up. But if I have, like, you know, a leader coming into the location or whatever, I may build infantry as that's happening. That's going to get me to the ground movement phase. I think my main concern is going to be shifting the Russians forward. I considered a fleet transport to Riga to make this trip shorter, but it kind of doesn't make sense. I can only haul 2 infantry or 1 cav. Maybe it would make sense with the cav. Yeah, let's shift the cav down there. That won't be able to move. But that can move on its own in the next turn. And might as well send my ship with it just for safety's sake. And it reduces, you know, my attrition and whatnot. So, like I did with everyone else, I'm going to show things kind of piecemeal where I'm moving. It's not going to be as interesting a turn because the Austrians aren't going to be trying to force a fight. They've got a huge demoralized force. Well, Charles might. My battery's running low. So the Russians are slowly streaming down everywhere. Oops, forgot him. Got to move him too. That is the leader here. He's got 7, okay. I'm going to try to move 4, I think. We don't do it. We get 3 movement points. I'm just trying to see. We would have only wanted 3 anyway, because we got to stay in supply. Finding a supply source is going to be tough, actually. This cav may be able to provide us with one coming out of Riga next turn. May have to run back to provide supplies. It's really hard moving around through Russia. Like, there are just areas like Brittany there aren't many supply sources around. I do have a supply chain. I had one. Fuck, what happened? 1, 2, 3. I need to leave somebody behind here. This Bagration, I think he had, who is that? Is that Bagration or is that Benningsen? That's Bagration. Where the fuck's Benningsen? Oh, that's Bagration there too. Yeah, I had to leave an infantry 1, 2, 3 here. The rest of these are in supply. Chaining the supply in this game is a pain in the ass. I should be used to it from Nations in Arms, but Charles has moved around Massena's flank and is going to try and attack there. But before I do that, I can recover this. Hey, we get one of them back. We're still fucked beyond belief, but maybe the Russian forces can remoralize us. The real problem is the French are going to, you know, demolish that force anyway. So let me swap batteries and figure out what's going on here. Pretty sure Massena has too many troops. Fucking Italians in there. 3, 6, 7, 8. Hope I didn't flip that. He has 8 units. That's too much if he's in a city, which he's not. So we're okay. Optional campaign rules in this one, which allow for that, like, long-term demoralization, etc. That, to me, creates more conclusive and decisive battles, especially in conjunction with the chit pull, where you can't withdraw, and my battery's not charging. They took a couple of things out. Like, there was a Blucher and Schwarzenberg rule, The Pro-French Expeditionary has been moved out of optional and into the main rules. And maybe changed a little bit. Abdication Exile has been moved out of the optional and into the main rules. But the Schwarzenberg and Blucher were basically, you get a 0 leader, great, who can die and take one of your really good leaders out of play later in the game. Nobody would want to use them. Like, you'd go hide them somewhere. It was a horrible rule. You might need them to ferry troops around and whatnot, but they really were not useful within, using them in the battlefield in any way. You really didn't want to do that. And what all it does is gives you an extra 0 leader, essentially, like a letter leader. Most named leaders were not 0s in this game. There were a few. One of the Bonapartes, Joseph probably. We got Jerome as a 1, but he's gold. Joseph is the one that I would think would be gold, because he's the one who was put in charge of Spain. But right? About the existence of John. This just looked like a strength point to me. I don't remember the old counters. Looking this way. Again, it's the busyness on the counters that's causing this, I think. Let's look for a leader. Okay, so the leaders had a very clear flag on them, as opposed to something like this. I look at this, and because it's a colored picture, like everything else is a colored picture, it doesn't stand out the way the simple black or white flag versus black or white man or horse did. So it is not clear to me when I look at something like this that it's not just a unit. I have to zoom in on the camera. You can see, this is what my eyes see, right? It's not quite 1 times. This is, this is 1 times. So this is what my eyes see. Actually, it's more like this. My eyes are a little better. I can see like that. I can see a strength point and some kind of colored image. I zoom in, I can see it's a man. But that's at 3 times to be able to see that it's a man. I look here, and let's get to where, this is about how I see it, and it's just fucking obvious. It's just the graphics on the old ones were imminently readable. And in so many ways, I'm finding myself having to peer in. So I completely didn't notice that that was John. I would not have that problem with the original counters. And the original map is easier to deal with. Just everything is better. This looks pretty. Pretty don't cut it. It just makes the game harder. It's one of my gripes about EU. Is that the counters and map coloration and everything, it all kind of got in the way. Games back in the 70s, War and Peace was from 1980, I think. But games back in the 70s there was just something cleaner about them. There wasn't this desire, it has to be really, really pretty, as the first choice above, it has to be usable. The point with John was, I've got only 4 strength points there, so even if I stood where I was, I wouldn't be able to get him out of there. What I can do, though, is move John down here. I think I'm going to leave a garrison. Innsbruck's not that important, but it is. This is part of Austria. I've got supplies coming out of Venice. It is a supply source, so I kind of don't want it being cut just by a cav running up there. If they want to send a force big enough to dispute it, that's fine. Now, as to the battle, Charles, I can't do that weird thing. Only the French can do that. Charles has a big force. He has Hiller with him. He has 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 strength points. Massena has 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this is going to be a 2-to-1 battle. Picking the chits is kind of tricky on this. Envelop isn't anything special in this. In Empires in Arms, the outflank requires that you roll against the leader's maneuver capability to have it succeed, and you could end up really fucked trying an outflank with bad leaders. So what I do in this case is I feel like everything kind of matches together. Neither side is going to withdraw. So I am going to roll a 1 through 5 across the board. This is kind of how I do it in 1776, where are you forced to use them in 1776? I don't remember. But on a 6, what is somebody good at? I'm going to give the French skirmish on a 6, and the Austrians will take a charge. So the Austrians are going to skirmish, and the French are going to charge. Let's see how that works out. It's probably pretty good for the French. So it's charge versus skirmish. The larger force is skirmishing, the smaller force is charging. That's going to be a -2. That's going really badly for the Austrians. Leadership is the same. The French give it another up to -3 because of their morale. There are no other modifiers. We look for the combat table. Unfortunately, I have to spread it all out because the loss table is here, this is here, and there's no way to get them both on the page at the same time. We roll for both in this case. In both cases, it's at -3 on the 2-to-1 table. Okay, a -3 for the French is going to get them to a D1 against the Austrians. That's going to break the Austrians. A -3 for the Austrians gets them to a 1. What was our smaller force? It was the French force. We have to look up its size again. This is a cumbersome system. You maybe want to write things down. 3, 6, 7, 8. So that's going to be 1 and 2 hits on the two forces. And a D1 for the Austrians. Now, the Austrians are fucked because they didn't withdraw. I'm going to have to look up the chip pull. Maybe if you're demoralized, you have a right to withdraw. I don't know. First, some things. It's still going to be the same result, but the Austrians would have charged with their cav. I'm realizing that. So they're going to have to take both their losses in cav. You know what's interesting? The optional rules don't contain the optional Grand Campaign combat results table and tell you how to use it. There may have been an option in the original game, but again, it's not really explained how to use this. Actually, here it says the player possesses a larger force always rolls the dice, which makes it sound like you only roll one set of dice, but it's not set up that way. Did they just copy the shit from the basic combat rules? That's what it looks like. Anyway, here The rules are here instead of in the rule book. So let's look. When using the standard rules for withdrawal are as follows. At the end of any round, if a force possesses more cav than the opposing enemy, it may voluntarily withdraw. So that means my Austrians are allowed to voluntarily withdraw. And I'm not outnumbered, so I get to fall back up here. Bringing John in isn't going to help my morale state. I remain demoralized. I have leader loss checks to make. Massena, I think, is alone. Again, hard to read these, but I don't know if the name was easier to read on the originals. I'm finding it really hard, but it may be just because the picture's bigger. Like, again, I don't know. These ain't too easy to read either. Great. All right. Let me come back after. Well, I'll come back if anybody dies back anyway. So that's the end. Oh, Massena could advance. He probably wants to. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. See, he's on the stupid table. How big's John's force? I'm not really playing with the hidden. John's force is 3, which means I'm not big enough to overrun him. Oh, I might jump between them and beat up on John. You don't know. Anyway, that's next turn. This is the end of the August 1805 turn. Next turn is a real turn, but I feel like we went into enough detail here that I want to load this one up. I'm finding... I mean, not only do I have my normal disinclination to do anything, but because I'm up, I don't know, because of my sleep schedule or whatever, I'm so fucking tired by the time it's warm enough for me to go shopping. And I'm just not being able to motivate myself. Today would have been a fine day to go. Tomorrow should be as well. It doesn't help that I have this like dangling, oh, I'm willing to take you shopping with no follow-up as to when that's going to happen. Like, if it doesn't happen tomorrow, if it doesn't happen by tonight, I really should go tomorrow. But each day, I'm feeling so shitty. Today, I was close. My chest is beginning to feel better. I don't know. It still hurts. I think it's a combination of coughing and sleeping on the hard floor. Not that hard. I mean, I have a carpet and I have padding to some extent, but not like, less than like a yoga mat or something probably. I don't know, maybe about the same. It's layers of it. And I just think that like, that's what's causing it. I've had aches like this before, but this particular one's really bugging me. And also, at one point, was giving me hope that I might not have much longer. Anyway, let's send this up. This is the August 1805 turn. Not a lot's happened, but I did dive into some of the mechanisms, especially the new combat system. I'm going to try not to go into detail on it all the time. I may just flip out after the combats and say, oh, this battle was done this way. I'm very tempted, If there's like a battle here and a battle up there, to handle each one separately. Because it really, like the idea of fighting around a battle here and then going up there, fighting around there. If they're close enough that they can interfere with each other, I'm fine. But it's just so obnoxious to me that, like, the way the game is structured, where you're supposed to fight the battles one round at a time, like you fight every battle for one round. The reality is, things that are far apart aren't going to influence each other much, so that's fine. But the things that are close together are where it's like, yeah, come on. There was like, I can think of one case where there were two battles that happened near each other at essentially a time at which they interfered with the possibility of reinforcements coming into either battle. Like, month-long turns, and there's like one case, the most you have is a couple of days of battle. And if rounds may be less than a day as well. I think that's very likely. There aren't a lot of battles that lasted more than a day or two. So anyway, all right, let's load it up.